I'm Randy Wilson, and you're back with 804 The Culture. This podcast can be found on YouTube at The Culture Collective. And we're super excited today to be here on the south side of Richmond at the Creative Playground. The Creative Playground has a phenomenal, as you can tell by the environment, like this place is dope, just to say the least. You definitely need to go check it out. Go learn more about CEO Studios and the different spaces that this venue has to offer for parties, for events, for live recordings, such as what we're doing right now. But we want to shout out Sharon. She's doing a beautiful job at putting this place together. And they also come with like a lot of accessories and things too. They got photography here going on. They got it all going on. So make sure you check out the Creative Playground here located on the south side of Richmond. Again, I'm Randy Wilson. I'm your host here with 804 The Culture. We want to make sure we let all 50,000 of you, hey, the numbers are growing. I don't know if y'all paid attention. We up to 50,000 now. So make sure that y'all continue to like, subscribe, and share. Now, not to confuse you guys with anything, but 804 The Culture is the Instagram platform. The Culture Collective is a YouTube show. So this is going to be aired on YouTube at the Culture Collective. So a lot of you guys are looking at the clips right now on Instagram, you liking them, you're enjoying them, and we're happy. But make sure you go over to YouTube so you can see the full episode as I sit down with a good brother here, Ed Goode Jr. Edward is an author, speaker, and a dedicated advocate for personal growth and transformation. He's also the author of Audacity. You see the book right here, Fueled by Invincible Ignorance to Win, a book that dives deep into resilience, overcoming adversity, and striving for greatness. Edward is also a D.C. native, raised in Prince George County.
Maryland.
And Edward has an interesting background. He's also in the human service field today. I guess growing up in Prince George County, it prepared you fairly well because we hear about the shit that be going on up there.
Absolutely.
It be going crazy. So thank you, man. We're really excited to have you on the show, particularly me personally, just the fact that we have a lot in common. Yes. You supervise mental health and counseling, case management services for individuals who suffer with mental illness and substance abuse issues.
Yes.
And so that personally really got my interest when we learned about you coming on the show because we share that in common. Tell me a little bit about Audacity and the inspiration behind putting this book together.
Well, interestingly enough, I really started writing the book when I was incarcerated. Excuse me. I used to write my son 3 or 4 letters a week. And I didn't mail them all, but he got a letter at least once a week. Mm-hmm. And while I was writing, I started to realize, like, man, I'm creating a whole journal here. And I used to my letters would consist of me talking about my day, how I felt and, how his day was and reviewing some of the things that I had instilled in him prior to that point. And, and I realized, man, it would be great to be able to write a book about this. So that came in my mind then, but at that time, it's kind of tough to focus on in the environment that you're in and, really write your book. But I used those letters to my son and as a journal to, lead on to writing the book. So it took me years to get to that point, man, because I was too broken. It was too painful. I began writing a thesis and putting some stuff down and, being engulfed in trying to recapture my life again, get employment in a field that I know was where I should be. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you have to do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do. So it took about 6 or 7 years to get to a point where I felt comfortable looking myself in the mirror and see a man again and feel some self-respect for myself and deal with my regrets a little better than I was unable to when I first came home. So I met Sharon, who was the publisher for CEO Magazine, and gave me a platform, really put me in position to share my thoughts. They were all over the place. Mm-hmm. And so she would just encourage me to just write, and I just started writing. It was very emotional. It was very painful. But I tell people all the time, you talk about the inspiration, the chance to heal. As I started to heal, as I wrote, I'm like, man, I didn't realize how broken I was until I started writing the book.
So I always try to do my research, and I did a little bit. I looked at some of the YouTube videos that was out, but I'm not. I think I'm very transparent, and for the audience who's receiving this they're going to be learning just as I'm learning, quite frankly, because I was familiar with you working in corrections.
Yes.
If I understand correctly.
Yes.
So
17 years.
you worked in correction for 17
17
years. I don't know that I realized. I think once I saw that you was working in corrections,
Yeah.
even though I thought that you might have been incarcerated,
Mhm.
that kind of moved on by. I didn't even catch that part really.
Yeah.
So how did you go from being in corrections to working in corrections?
Well, I was in corrections working first. All right. So
Okay.
yeah. And some things happened. Life
Mhm.
happened.
Mhm.
My arrogance, and I would say that for the majority of my life that I can remember, I've been a winner.
Mhm.
And in some ways of winning, not in the most appropriate way.
Mhm.
Not spiritually based, thinking I'm untouchable,
Mhm.
because along from a childhood, I was able to do a lot of things, and some things that were wrong that I wasn't held accountable for.
Mhm.
So you start to live with that energy, and went on. So sometimes God will let you do a lot of things before you press stop on the play button and hold you accountable.
Is it fair to say that the correction system helped correct you?
No, no, correctional system just punished me, but I asked for it. I
Mm-hmm.
don't blame anyone for that. So working in the system, I was fortunate enough I was promoted
Mm-hmm.
every 2 years. Man, I held
Mm-hmm.
every position except for warden.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, just winning,
Mm-hmm.
and then involved in some things inside the prison as well as outside. And so sometimes things happen, man, to press stop and get your life back in order again.
Well, I appreciate, I often say I do a lot of speaking. I talk pretty much for a living, as you do. And, um, you know, I think it's important that, I think it's a beautiful, first off, I think it's important for men particularly when we can be vulnerable in moments because particularly as black men,
Mhm.
like we're not often we've never really been allowed to be vulnerable.
Mm.
You be strong, be tough, shake it off.
Yeah.
It's always those type things, right? So I just kind of want to applaud you. I don't want to get hung up on that, but I think it is a beautiful thing though that you have a testimony
Mhm.
to be able to share your story and come through in such a positive way
Yeah.
and be now making a difference. I mean, particularly when it comes to writing a book, like I've never written a book. I started, haven't went back to it since 2013.
Yeah.
But I've always heard from people who've written books is once you write a book, that's no one can take it away from you, and you always have a platform that will allow you to speak,
Yeah.
teach, and reach people.
Yes.
And so I applaud you for that. One of the things now I'm really interested in, because particularly you work in the mental health space and you have a background in corrections, which is adjacent affiliated with law enforcement to some degree. Like, what has that transition been like? Because you don't see
No.
you don't see that transition a lot with people. A lot of people in the corrections and the law enforcement, that's a very institutionalized setting.
Yeah.
You are now in a completely different setting, rehabilitating and treating people
Excuse me.
who have maybe had some troubled backgrounds. How did you make that transition?
It wasn't easy. In corrections, you have excuse me, security, and you have treatment.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been on the security side,
Mm-hmm.
and we bumped head with treatment all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been a strong believer in you can't provide treatment without structure,
Yeah.
right? And so I'll tell you my experience, my failure provided so much more life for me than it would have ever imagined. People always say, I don't judge, but we do. Most people judge. It's just human nature.
Yeah.
But to hold people accountable for that is a different story. So the transition, number one, I had a son that I needed to provide for, and God will put you in certain positions, man, to recapture your life. And I always tell people now that we can't be defined by a job. We can't be defined by a career.
Yeah.
And I had to practice what I always preach to my son. So what now? I'm a fold now. I've been telling him, be tough, be fold, hold yourself accountable, be honest. And now here we are. And it was a perfect opportunity for me to do that, not only for him, for myself, but in the field that I work in now, I'm able to have much more compassion, much more understanding, a lot more patience. When I started in corrections in 1994, champ, it was barbaric school.
You're a young man now. Why are you showing your age like that? I'm not assuming you a day past 34.
Yeah, man, I'm 56 years old, bro. So it was barbaric school. It was hand-to-hand combat, and it was right aligned with my lifestyle. Football, sports. It was all rigid. So I loved it. And being from where I'm from, that's what it was about. But it's not. You know what I mean? And as you get older, you go through things. So I'm thankful for the process. And some processes are very painful, but needed. And so it just gives me another platform to speak from and reach people.
I kind of being in the same industry, and I'm sure it's similar to you. I kind of pride myself on having a sense of recognize and character, and you speak with a you can. I'm interested actually to read this book now that we're talking, because your conviction comes through
Yeah.
in your communication, in your
Thank you.
style, your word. It comes through. It, you can feel it,
Mhm.
and I see people sometime, man, that I'm definitely not. I'm definitely not like the model or standard for what I think God wants me to be.
Right.
I am working toward it. I'm trying to be the best I can be most days. But when I say that your conviction comes through, you can hear it in your voice.
Mhm.
You can.
Thank you.
You can really hear it. That, to me, that's believable change.
Mhm. Mhm.
Where, because I say this about, I probably say this almost every day. Labels conceal more than they reveal. You, you
Absolutely.
know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But when you can feel
Yeah.
and sense it, it's a genuine thing. So I've kind of sensed that energy from you from the point we came through here, that we started this conversation. Let people know where they can find the book Audacity.
Well, I have a website, iamedgoode.com.
Mm-hmm.
It's also on several outlets.
Mm-hmm.
They have audio book is out now, so
Mm-hmm.
you can get that as well. But I have a website, and you can find everything on my website. You can order the book. You can surf everything. You go to my YouTube channel, Instagram, Suited for Life, Facebook. It's all on there.
How long has this book been out?
It came out in May of 24.
Okay, so it's still fairly new.
It is.
Sooner or later, we're gonna be calling this a bestseller. See, that's what y'all do anyway. Y'all be calling y'all's book bestseller because it's on Amazon, and it ain't always a bestseller yet. So but we're gonna claim it. We're gonna go ahead and put it out there.
Yeah.
This is very well, nice put together book too, man. This is what, $45 a book?
No, you get the book for $23.
$23. This thing, the way this book put together, this ain't put
Yeah.
together cheap, y'all. Y'all go out here and support this brother, Edward Goode Jr., and get this book Audacity. Have you partnered with any of the local bookstores with this book?
I have not
An
yet.
opportunity right now.
Right. I have not yet. Actually, we had a book fair to attend, and it was canceled because of the weather. So at a bookstore down in Petersburg.
Demetrius Frazier.
Yes.
That name ring a bell?
Yes.
I've never met Demetrius,
Yes.
but somebody, I interviewed somebody who, Rob Youngblood,
Okay.
and Rob Youngblood writes books, and he put it in Demetrius Frazier bookstore. So you should connect with Demetrius Frazier. Being that you're a Virginia State alumni,
Yes,
he has a
yes.
bookstore in Petersburg. Shout out to you, Demetrius. We never met, but you see I'm plugging you in here, and we probably should tag that. I mean,
That's right.
he needs to have your book in
right.
store, particularly for all those young brothers coming out of Virginia State who are going through similar things.
Indeed.
You emphasize embracing the higher self in your book. Can you share a moment in your life where you've had to push through adversity and fully step into that higher self?
Well, that really resonated with me while I was incarcerated. God spoke to me and just asked me. It was so much what went on in that night, and it was like 3 a.m, and I saw him, and he spoke to me, and he said, "Do you hear me now?" And I tell you, man, it shook me for days, because it was like that moment. The expectations for myself had changed. It actually helped me finish my time there with less worry and stress, because it was like, he gave me a lot. I blessed you with a lot, brother, and this is what you did with your opportunities. And so he had been speaking to me, for years. I didn't hear it, but he did through certain people, through certain incidents. And so, do you hear me now? And that always stays with you. You talk about speaking with conviction. I don't. When it's authentic and it's real pain and real suffering, and you lose everything, and the only thing you can rely on, only person you can rely on is God. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
The subtitle of your book mentions invincible ignorance to win. Break that down for us.
Well, that was kind of like I mentioned earlier about I've been a winner most of my life, been successful, but and I just felt like I was able to do whatever I wanted to do, how I wanted to do. I did it for the most part. I was blessed with the ability to.
I mean, being an athlete, there's it's the ego.
Absolutely.
It's
that didn't help.
inflated self of
That didn't help. That didn't help.
Yeah.
I played basketball like yourself, played football in high school. I go back to, man, 5th and 6th grade, being a man, and not really realizing that, I had the big brothers were there
Yeah.
to help me understand
Yeah.
but in my age group, I was that guy. I don't care what sport I was, what team it was. And so you get older and that ego sets in, and that you feel like, and your talents, you start to think that your talents are because of you, right? And you start to move that way. And so you start to make certain decisions that you can do whatever you want to do. And at early, I'm talking about early on, man. I laugh about it now. I was like, man, I had to be the biggest fool in the world. But that invincible ignorance started to be my lifestyle. Even when I went in my adult life, on the working field, there were things that happened, things that went on, and I was always given a nod.
Yeah.
Always given an opportunity to get past it, because of certain skill sets that I brought to the table, certain things that I could do that others couldn't do. You talk about working in corrections. I wasn't afraid to deal with men. You know what I mean? I come from a father that was real tough.
Yeah.
And the environment I grew up in, guys, you had to handle your own. And so I wasn't afraid. Not every man is, has that energy to just deal with someone with fearless.
Yeah.
Which some of it was crazy. I think about it now. I'm like, man, God was with me during that time, and so it's that lifestyle, man.
Yeah, I think it's important, particularly if the younger people who may be listening to this, whether it's now or later, like, I mean, it is a gift that when you have talents, whether they're athletic or in other aspects. They're not just athletic. It can be a lot of areas. I remember one time I got into a really bad argument with my father. Bad. I'll just leave it at that. And I had a game, and I sprained my ankle so bad. And I remember the first thing I thought about when I sprained my ankle, it was a punishment. It was it was nothing else I could think about other than the reason I sprained my ankle that day. It was a punishment. It's like God sometimes has this way of showing you things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's great that you had the insight to think like that. Most don't. I tell people all the time, you pray for the rain, you got to deal with the mud.
Hey, who is this? Who is this book for?
Everybody, man. I think it's everybody's life. The youth, adults, those that are recovering from whatever they need to recover from. It's inspirational. It's authentic. It's real. It's family, fatherhood, parenting, marriage, athletes. It has a curriculum on the inside of it throughout certain chapters that you can follow. I think it's for everyone.
I mean, with you being a standout athlete at Virginia State University, excelling in football, it's fair to probably say that discipline and training as an athlete has contributed to the mindset that you think you have today?
Absolutely. That definitely played a part, man. But I just, as an athlete, man, losing is not an option. Competing is what we do. And if you want to be a starter on whatever team, you got to outwork everybody. But there's and I tell people all the time that, most things that we want in life don't require talent. It requires discipline. It requires commitment, humility, having spirituality, believing in your higher power.
Take me back. When did you graduate Virginia State?
1991.
Take me back to
Were
that
you
time.
born?
Man, yeah, I was born. Take me back to 90. Take me back to 91 with the climate of what we see changing now with football. Dion went to Jackson State. Michael Vick now is at Norfolk State. Take me when you look at that time as a college athlete and the opportunities that you had or did not have. Was the NFL a possibility for a student athlete coming out of a CIAA school back then?
Absolutely, but just not as easy as available as it is now. You had to be really, really good back then to get a shot. I was fortunate enough to be in positions to be visited by some scouts. Chicago Bears, Tampa Bay, New York Giants came down to see me. I had a really good junior year.
What position did you play?
Defensive back, corner and safety. Had a really good junior year. And
you was a big back. How tall are you?
I was 6'1.5", 6'2". Yeah, I had good size. Wasn't this big then. I played like 195. Yeah, I'm 230 now. So I'll probably be playing linebacker back then. So, but the times are different, and we talk about all the time, like, and it's kind of unfair to the youth today. We always say, man, y'all guys got it made. And they don't. This is what they know. That's what we knew. But yeah, the opportunity is there. I just wasn't good enough. That's plain and simple. I maxed out where I was supposed to max out here. I think that if the changes were like they were now, like we were talking earlier.
If you had that Vertimax back then.
I think it'd be a little different. I'd be a little faster, a little stronger, more opportunities. But social media has opened up to HBCU. Yeah. The world has. Yeah. With the Deion Sanders and the coaches going out. So we're seeing now, as opposed to back then we weren't. Yeah. Most, for us, they went to Virginia, the Division IIs, MEAC schools, HBCU, CIAA, HBCU. That was the biggest thing for us at that time. A lot of people didn't get out of the neighborhoods and go play ball. I remember going home and guys, man, I ain't see you on TV yesterday, man. Y'all were playing University of Maryland. I said, man, that's UVA, man. That's Virginia State. So it's a difference, but the same commitment and same thing applies, man. Same thing applies.
So I said it before. When I say labels conceal more than they reveal, I learned that from someone else. It was actually Dr. Stuart Seminole, who was the clinical psychologist that worked up in Northern Virginia. It was Henry Malvolve, that shooting massacre that happened. And I actually had an opportunity to do some stuff collaboratively with him. So I'm careful when I say these labels, but you have a lot of labels. You're an author, speaker, you're a mentor. This book was just released in May. Yes. But what's next? See, we as Black people, we don't get just satisfied with now. Right. We thinking about that. We got to think for the future. Like, what's the plan and the journey for how you're going to market this book and advertise this book? Are there other platforms and things that you plan on? I mean, you came to the best place today, 804TheCulture, because we are for the culture.
Yes, sir.
So our goal is that we reach our demographic to show them, obviously an example of a positive Black man. But what's coming next? We have to ask.
Well, we're marketing now. The CEO publishing team is marketing now. Londa's lovely photography is doing a great job with that. That's out of my league as far as that's concerned. But I'm interested in continuing a platform to help the youth and returning citizens. I think there's a need. That's a big arena now, returning citizens. I know in the bigger cities, like D.C., Atlanta, New York, they're really forming, different programs and pilot programs to help those that are returning because, it's a need for that, man. And they're out, and if you don't, they're going to return doing the same things that they did before. And that's why recidivism is so high now. So, speaking engagements, man, and talking churches and schools. I want to get back into the prison systems and talk and speak and share.
Are you familiar with RBA League for Safer Streets? Have you heard of that?
I haven't.
Hey, y'all make note of that, okay? RBA League for Safer. You familiar with it? There's someone I need to introduce you to. Okay. His name is Paul. What's Paul's last name? It'll come to me here in a second. But Paul, you and Paul need to connect. Right. Because you got similar, y'all may have had some similar backgrounds. And Paul Taylor. You got to connect with Paul Taylor. Paul Taylor. Well, and it should, because Governor North, I think Governor North, he went through the correction system. And while in the system, he created a program. Just when you get a chance, go look his name up and put my name in Randy Wilson podcast. He tells his whole story.
Okay.
And he created a program while in the system that once he got out, Governor Northam allowed him to put that system into, I don't know, the government, whatever, the legal, it was basically incorporated into the General Assembly as so like, y'all need to connect. Powerful.
Yeah.
Now, trust me, I know this has to happen. I'll help make it happen.
Yeah, I
When you get a chance, just go look up Paul Taylor, and you can put in Randy Wilson podcast because we did an interview before, and you kind of learn his story.
Yes, sir. We'll do.
Sometimes, and I said this to the folks last time, like, we having a conversation, but they having a conversation too, because they're watching, they're listening. Like, I sometimes break the formality of conversations. Sometimes they end up being working meetings. Because what's the value and benefit of us sitting here and having a conversation if we're not going to make things happen?
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So I definitely had to make sure I get that off.
Yeah.
Lastly, before we close here, one powerful message about perseverance and purpose. If you could leave the audience with a powerful message about perseverance and purpose, what would that be?
Everything starts within. I think that I learned along my journey that you have to have love within. You have to have your higher power within you. As far as your purpose is concerned, what do you love to do? What's your passions? What do you enjoy? And, being able to have an impact on others is one of the most impactful, powerful energies we can put out in the world.
Yeah. That's special. Yo, y'all have heard it here. Listen, coming to you from the Hood's Bryant Gumbel. Randy Wilson podcast. Randy Wilson. Yeah, this is 804TheCulture, where we bring relevant, we're uplifting Black voices, okay? We're empowering community. We do bring a little bit of ratchetness too. I mean, listen, we not gonna confuse y'all with the algorithm, but we gotta bring examples like this brother right here to the platform, because when y'all doing this right here, sometimes you just gotta find something. Sometimes you gotta stop. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And everything can't be about, ignorance, quite frankly. You know what I'm saying? This brother's doing positive things for the community. And I'm really happy we had this conversation. It's not going to be the last conversation. We definitely going to connect you with Demetrius Frazier and Paul Taylor.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. But again, 804TheCulture, for the culture, from the culture. We are amongst culture today. We in South Richmond, and it's been a pleasure talking to you, Mr. Goode.
Likewise, man.
Thank you, sir. Remember, Culture Collective on YouTube. Okay, run that up and like and share this podcast. Thank you.